Windmere was the kind of town that lived in past tense. Its streets always smelled like salt and rust, and the sea, though close, sounded far away, like a memory muttered under breath. The fog came early, left late, and no one hurried much between either. Elias Ward fit right in. At 40, he lived above the town archive in a flat too big for one man, filled with paper, silence, and the smell of old glue. He cataloged things people had forgotten. Land deeds, ship manifests, diaries from people who no longer had descendants. Every day he climbed the same 6 steps, brewed the same bitter coffee, and unlocked a door that hadn't changed its sound in years. He liked it that way, or at least he told himself he did. That evening, the fog had arrived early, sliding in like a hell breath. Elias had stayed late in the archive, losing time in a box of letters dated 1911, written in pencil, smudged like ghosts whispering from the margins. He didn't notice how dark it had gotten. On his way home, he took a detour, past the cliffs and down toward the old rail yard. It was nothing but an overgrown memory now. Cracked concrete, rusted tracks swallowed by weeds, a ticket booth slumped like a drunk against the wind. No one used it. No one should have used it, but something caught his eye. Just beneath the warped glass of the booth's door, a slip of cream-colored paper, yellowed at the edges, almost waiting. He crouched, reached under, and pulled out a thick envelope. It was unsealed, no address, no return name. But his handwriting was unmistakable, looped, precise, left-leaning. On the front, only one word: for you. Elias opened it, slowly. The paper was stiff and cold, like it had been waiting a long time. Inside, a train ticket. Simple, elegant. A deep black serif font on pale ivory cardstock. Windmere Station departure, 1:11 a.m. One way, no return, no name, no platform. Nothing but time and intent. He stared at it for a long minute. Then 2. The sea whispered behind him, louder now. And from the shadows, a voice rasped, "Best not to play with ghosts, Mr. Ward." Elias turned. An old man stood by the rusted turnstile, coat like a curtain, beard tangled with seaweed. He was known around town as Finn, a vagrant who spoke in riddles and smelled like salt and smoke. "What do you mean?" Elias asked, suddenly aware of the damp paper still in his hand. "That ticket?" Finn nodded toward it. "Ain't meant for most, but some folk, they get chosen, or cursed. Hard to say which." "You know what this is?" Finn smiled sadly. "They say there's a train comes through here. Only at night, only for some. 1:11 sharp, takes you someplace, not on any map." Elias waited. "Place forgotten by time," Finn said softly. "People who get on, they don't come back. Ever. Not even in memory." The wind rose, lifting dust. Elias looked down at the ticket again. It was warm in his hand now, alive, and the clock tower behind him began to chime midnight. 1 hour left, and something in the rails began to hum. The next night, Elias returned to the station. He told himself it was curiosity, research even, something he could write about in his archive logs. But the truth pulsed deeper, quieter. The ticket lay on his desk, untouched, but never unnoticed. It watched him, midnight again. The sky was slate, the moon a smudged thumbprint. The station hadn't changed, still cracked, still lifeless. Yet it felt different, as if the wind no longer blew through it, but around it, like it knew to keep its distance. Elias stood beneath the crooked street lamp, hands in pockets, when he noticed he wasn't alone. The woman was already there. She stood perfectly still near the edge of the platform, her face turned away. Her coat was heavy, buttoned too high. A scarf wrapped tight around her head, though no wind moved. Her gloved hands gripped something, a small box, maybe a locket. She didn't look at Elias, didn't need to. "I'm Evelyn," she said quietly. Her voice sounded like pages turning in an old book. "You have a ticket too." He hesitated, then nodded. Evelyn turned. The scarf slipped slightly. The left side of her face was ravaged, burned. Scar tissue mapped across her jaw like dried riverbeds. Her eye there, clouded but alert. Elias looked, then looked away. She didn't seem to mind. "They said I'd know when it was time," she murmured. "But the train, it waits. It tests you. Every night it asks the same question." "What question?" She looked past him. "Are you done with the world yet?" A few minutes later, another arrived. A man, tall, thin, dressed in a gray suit too elegant for this century. He carried a violin case, scuffed and leather-wrapped. His beard was streaked white, his hands covered in fingerless gloves. He tipped his hat toward Elias, then Evelyn. "Name's Bell," he said, voice a deep rumble. "Used to play symphonies. Now I wait for ghosts." He said it like a joke, but his eyes didn't laugh. Then came the boy, barefoot, hoodie too big, maybe 13. He didn't say his name, not right away, just sat on the bench and stared at the tracks. When he finally spoke, it was almost to himself. "Jamie, I guess." He held out his ticket like it might disappear, like it already had once. They waited together, not speaking much, not needing to. And then, as the clock struck 1:11, it came. Not with steam or whistles, but with a low hum. The ground shivered beneath their feet. A dull white light bled from beyond the fog. It moved without wheels, without sound. Elias watched, heart hammering, breath tight. He could feel the weight of it, massive, ancient, patient, but he didn't step forward. None of them did. The doors stayed shut. After a moment, the light faded. The train vanished. The silence returned. They said nothing, even as they turned to leave. It was the third night before Elias realized something had shifted. His diary, his beloved, meticulous journal, had a blank page where yesterday's entry should have been. Then another. He stared at the space where a photo of his sister had once been. It was gone. He could remember her name, but not her face. The ticket on his desk was still warm. The fog was heavier that night. It pressed down like wet wool, swallowing the stars and flattening every sound into a dull hush. Elias arrived early, earlier than usual. He found Mr. Bell sitting on the bench, tuning a violin that hadn't made a sound in years. Jamie was pacing, hood up, face tight with something between fear and anger. Evelyn stood by the edge of the platform, still, composed, but different. She'd taken off the scarf. Her scars were bare under the sodium glow. And for the first time, Elias noticed the calm in her eyes. Not peace exactly, but something close. Resolve. "I'm going tonight," she said simply. The others didn't answer, not with words. Mr. Bell just lowered his violin. Jamie stopped walking, and Elias didn't ask why. They all knew. At 1:10, the rails began to hum, not like metal, like memory, a frequency that shook inside the bones. Elias felt it vibrate through his spine, through the soles of his shoes, through the damp in his lungs, and then light, brighter than before. The fog split apart like pulled curtains, revealing the shape of the train. Long, sleek, impossible. Windows flickered like eyes waking. The doors hissed open without sound. Warmth spilled from within, golden, heavy with dust and time. Evelyn stepped forward. She turned once, nodded to each of them. Her mouth moved, maybe a goodbye, maybe something else. Then she crossed the threshold and was gone. The doors closed. The light pulled back into silence, and the train disappeared. They stood there, not speaking. Even Jamie had no words. Mr. Bell lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "She did it," he muttered. "God help her." Elias swallowed hard. He could still feel the heat where the train had stood, still see the outline in his mind. And yet, when he got home that night, he sat down to write about Evelyn, about her scars, her voice, her choice. But the words wouldn't come. Worse, he couldn't recall her name. Her face was already fading, blurred at the edges, as if someone had taken an eraser to his mind. The next morning he went to his desk, opened the drawer where he kept the small Polaroid they'd taken together. Her, Belle, Jamie, and him, beneath the platform light. The photo was still there, but Evelyn was not. Just three people standing with space between them. And a fourth shadow, barely visible. like something that had once existed, or maybe never had. By dusk, Elias was trembling. He went to his bookshelf, searching for his sister's photo. The one by the lake, gone. He stared at the empty frame, the hollow space, her name. He had to dig for it, and when he found it, Clara, it felt foreign, cold in his mouth. That night, he didn't go to the station. He stayed in his apartment, lights off, watching the second hand on the clock tick past 1:11. He didn't see the train, but he heard it, far away and inside him. The next morning, Elias packed a small bag, notebook, gloves, a fountain pen, one photograph. His childhood blurred but intact. He tore out the mirror from the bathroom wall, took it to the sea and threw it in. He wrote a letter, no address, no apology, just, "I remember enough, it's time." He placed the ticket in his coat. It pulsed against his chest. Next time, he would board. It was raining when Elias returned to the platform. Not the kind of rain that soaks, but the kind that whispers, constant, cold, relentless. He stood beneath the old canopy, coat buttoned tight, the ticket gripped in his palm like a secret he could no longer carry. 1:09. Jamie wasn't there. Mr. Bell was, sitting silently, violin across his lap, hands motionless. They nodded to each other as if this were a funeral, and both had already said their goodbyes. 1:10. The hum began, not beneath the feet this time, but inside the chest, like a second heartbeat, waking. And then, the light returned. No fog this time, no hesitation. The train slid into place as if it had always been there, as if time only curved to make room for it. Its doors opened with a sigh. Elias stepped forward and entered. The first thing he noticed wasn't the smell, though it was vivid, like old fabric and burning coal. It was the temperature, warm, dry, alive. The inside of the train looked nothing like the world he'd left behind. No plastic, no chrome, just velvet and glass. Walnut panels. Star-shaped light fixtures that flickered like breath. The brass rails were polished to a soft, tired gleam. It felt, not built, but remembered, as if it had been his memory. Elias moved slowly. The door behind him vanished with a gentle click. Ahead, corridors of compartments, each one with a fogged glass window. He passed the first. Inside, a child's bedroom, lit by soft moonlight, toys scattered on a rug, a record spinning soundlessly on a turntable, a tiny shoe by the foot of the bed. His breath caught. He knew that room. It was his, from decades ago. He didn't open the door. Second compartment, a desk, a fountain pen, an unfinished letter, addressed to Clara, her name written over and over on the top line, never sent, never sealed. He felt a weight rise in his throat. Third, a lake at dusk, the surface still, a scream echoing off the water, then silence. He stepped back. The train jolted softly, though the world outside didn't move. He glanced out the window. There was no countryside, no darkness, no anything, just a thick, roiling gray, like the inside of sleep. Voices from farther down the train. He followed them. Other passengers moved between compartments, each trapped in scenes of their own. He saw Jamie in a corridor, pressing his hands against glass that didn't yield, sobbing. He saw Mr. Bell inside a smoking room, lit in sepia, conducting an invisible orchestra with trembling hands. And then, a man screaming, wild, writhing, tearing at the walls. His compartment, a hospital bed, a woman dying. The man banged on the glass. His eyes met Elias's. "Don't go forward," he shrieked. "It gets worse! It gets worse!" A moment later, the door to his compartment slammed shut from the inside, without anyone touching it, and the man vanished, not faded, not dissolved, erased. Elias stood there for a long time, breath ragged, heart thudding. Then he looked ahead, at the long hallway, the final door at the end of the car. The one made of iron, with no handle. Behind it, something waited. The train inhaled, and Elias walked on. The next car was unlike the others. No numbered doors, no benches, just a long corridor, lit in warm gold, pulsing gently like a heartbeat, and rooms open, waiting on either side. No glass, no barriers, only memory. The first room Elias entered smelled of chamomile and soap. Familiar, gentle, a kitchen table, scratched oak. And across from him, his mother. Younger than he remembered, healthier. She was humming, not to him, not for performance, just being. A pot steamed on the stove. Rain tapped the window. She looked up and smiled. "Stay for tea," she said, as if this were Tuesday. Elias stepped closer. Everything in him begged to sit, to speak, to listen, but he didn't. He only whispered, "You've been gone for 21 years. His mother tilted her head gently. "I'm still here if you are." The second room, a hospital, the walls too white, humming too loud. That smell, clean and wrong. Clara lay in the bed, pale, breathing shallow, the beep of the monitor like a countdown. He knew this moment. It was the one where he chose not to stay. Work had called. The archive was flooding. There'd be time tomorrow, but tomorrow she was gone. Now, here, she opened her eyes. "Elias!" He stepped forward, trembling. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have..." Her hand reached for his. "Then stay now," she said. He felt the pull in his chest, deep and desperate. He could hold her hand forever. But instead, he stepped back, and the room dimmed behind him. The third room was an archive. Dust danced in the slanted light. Stacks of old letters bound with red twine. He saw himself, younger, gloves on, flame in hand, burning a box of correspondence labeled unclaimed. He'd told himself it was routine, bureaucracy. But as the fire ate the words, he now heard them. Whispers of lives never finished, of loves never confessed, of pain no one ever answered. He'd erase them because it was easier. He turned away. The younger version of himself didn't look up. In the corridor again, Elias moved slower now. The air was thicker, the golden light dimmer. He passed open rooms where others had stopped. A woman holding a stillborn child. A man laughing beside a piano, endlessly playing the same note. A child staring into a mirror where nothing looked back. These were the ones who'd chosen to stay, to anchor themselves in memory. Their faces, as Elias passed, were blurred, smoothed out like old paintings left in the rain. Eyes blank, soul emptied. He knew now what the train offered. Not escape, not salvation, but sedation. A chance to curl inside the warm blanket of what once was, until you forgot there ever was anything more. He came to the final door. Steel, seamless, cold to the touch. No knob, no lock. Just a symbol etched into the metal. A circle broken by a single line. He took a breath. Behind this door was no memory. Only the engine, the truth, and the choice. Elias placed his hand on the metal. It shuddered beneath him, as if waking. And slowly, the door began to open. The cabin wasn't what he expected. No levers, no gauges, no glowing buttons. Just a single chair, bolted to the center of the room, its back facing him, and someone in it. Elias moved forward. Each step felt heavier, like gravity was shifting. When he finally reached the front, he stopped cold. The figure in the chair was him, older, thinner, skin like parchment, eyes closed. A quiet version of Elias, as if time had taken root and grown inside his bones. The older Elias didn't look surprised. He just spoke, without opening his eyes. "You took longer than I did." Elias swallowed. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "I'm you. Or I was. Or I will be. Time's not so neat in here." Silence. Then, "You think you're a passenger," the old man said. "But you never were. You're the conductor." Elias shook his head. "That's not possible." "Of course it is. You've been carrying the weight for years. Memory, guilt, loss. That's what powers the train, what feeds it." He gestured vaguely around the cabin. This isn't a destination, it's a mechanism, a machine for forgetting or remembering, depending on the route. Elias stepped back. But I didn't choose this. Didn't you? The old man asked. You kept every letter. You memorized every face. You lived in the past. You archived it, preserved it like it mattered more than breath. A long pause, the hum deepened. So now, the old Elias said, finally opening his eyes, dull but sharp beneath, you get to choose. Choose what? The room dimmed. The seat behind Elias retracted into the wall. And the cabin became a mirror, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. In every direction, he saw versions of himself. Elias the child, crying for his mother. Elias the young man, burning letters with shaking hands. Elias holding Clara's hand too late. Elias walking past Evelyn, pretending not to see her scars. The old man stood now, right beside him. One path leads to forgetting. Peace, maybe, but false. He pointed into the mirror. The other is harder. You wake up, you carry it, all of it, but you live. The train began to slow. No sound, just the sensation of descent, like sinking through thought. The older Elias reached for the seat again. He sat, folded his hands, closed his eyes, and faded. Not violently, like steam. Rising, only Elias remained, alone in the cabin, heart pounding. In the glass, his reflection looked back. Not older, not younger, just real. And then, he spoke. I want to live. The train exhaled, and the world began to return. The sound of rain woke him, not a storm, just a steady, soft pattering against the window. Elias opened his eyes slowly. He was in his bed, the sheets slightly damp, the air tinged with cold. His clothes were folded neatly on the chair by the door. His coat hung where it always did. No sign of mud, no ticket in the pocket, no sign of travel at all. But something was different. The silence had changed. It no longer pressed in. It breathed. He stood, legs shaky, and walked barefoot to his desk. His journal sat open. The page from yesterday, blank. He flipped back, page after page, empty. Only the first few entries remained, faded like old ink washed by rain. His handwriting, but the words, no longer familiar. He closed the book gently, then paused. In the air, something lingered. Not memory, not smoke, but scent. A faint trace of ash and iron. The smell of old tracks after heat, of something finished but not forgotten. He stepped outside. The morning mist rolled over Windmere in gentle waves. Seagulls circled distantly above the cliffs. He walked the familiar path toward the sea, each step quieter than the last. Past the bakery, the shuttered station, the rusted ticket booth. He didn't stop, just kept walking until he reached the edge of the rocks. The ocean stretched before him, soft and gray, the kind of gray that holds promise. He closed his eyes and listened. Rain, waves, and a single distant call of a gull. For the first time in years, Elias didn't feel pulled backward. No weight on his chest, no ghosts at his shoulder, only the present, breath, and the sea. He smiled, not big, not forced, just enough. Back at home, he made tea, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He sat by the window, no books in hand, no pen, just steam and silence and the soft ticking of the wall clock. It struck 1:11 p.m. and passed without a sound. That night he slept deeply. No dreams, just dark, quiet rest. And somewhere, far off where rails meet fog, a train slid past a forgotten platform. Its doors closed, its lights dim, waiting for someone else. The train arrives at 1:11, but not for him anymore.